Continuum of Care Board meeting is now called to order. Please turn on your microphone when speaking and mute when not speaking. The MAG public comment process allows members of the public to comment on items on today's agenda or on items that fall under the COC's jurisdiction. If you'd like to comment at today's meeting, please fill out a white request to speak card by the door and give it to MAG staff. If you parked in the garage, parking validators are available by the door. If you purchased a transit ticket to come to the meeting, please see staff for a ticket. Hearing assisted devices are available from MAG staff. Kelly, will you please take roll call? And when called, please share your name, that you're here in the organization after Kelly calls on you.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. Leticia Brown Gambino.
Here, Leticia Brown Gambino, Key Campus.
Pardon me for the mispronunciation. Thank you. Jessica Cruz.
Jessica Cruz, Native American Connections.
Thank you. Liz DaCosta. Lisa Glow.
Lisa Glow, Central Arizona Shelter Services.
Thank you. Chris Hallett.
Chris Hallett, City of Peoria, Neighborhood and Human Services.
Thank you. Michael Hughes. Thank you. Jessica Raymond.
Jessica Raymond, Atlantic Development and Investments.
Thank you. TJ Reed.
TJ Reed, Maricopa County.
Thank you. Charles Sullivan. Sienna Valdez. Cricket Weatherington.
Present. Cricket Weatherington, Arizona Housing, Inc.
Thank you. Danielle Wright.
Hi, Danielle Wright, Arizona Coalition to End Sexual and Domestic Violence.
Thank you. Co-Chair Rachel Milne.
Rachel Milne, City of Phoenix.
Thank you. And Co-Chair Vicki Phillips.
Here, Community Brick.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chairs. You have quorum.
Thank you. Right. The next item on the agenda is a call to the audience. This is an opportunity for the public to comment on items that fall under the Continuum of Care Board that are not on the agenda or that are on the agenda for discussion and not for action. 15 minutes will be provided for the call to the audience agenda item unless the committee requests an exception to this limit. Kelly, were there any comments received or anyone who wishes to offer comments at this time?
Madam Co-Chairs, there were no comments provided and no one to offer public comment at this time.
All right, thank you. Thank you, and we'll now move on to the next agenda item. Okay, our next item is the approval of the consent agenda. Items 3A through 3E are on the agenda for consent. Does any member of the board have questions, comments, or request a presentation on any of these items? Does any member of the public wish to comment on any items on the consent agenda? Okay. May I have a motion to approve consent items 3A through 3E?
I move for approval of the consent agenda.
Thank you. And a second?
This is Rachel. I'll second.
Thank you. So we have a motion from Mike and a second from Rachel. All right. Is there discussion of the motion of the board or comments from the public? All right. For those in the room, we will take a voice vote. Those in favor, please say yay.
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 Those opposed, please say nay. Okay, Kelly, I will ask you to proceed with roll call of those joining online.
Thank you. Leticia Brown Gambino.
Yay.
Thank you. Jessica Raymond.
Yay.
Thank you. Lisa Glow.
Yay.
Thank you. Danielle Wright.
Yay, sorry.
Thank you. Madam Co-Chair, the motion passes.
Thank you. Welcome to Tim Birch as our new East Valley Jurisdiction representative. We're excited to have you on board, and we'll move on to our next agenda item. Welcome. All right, the next item on the agenda is the Shelter Bill of Rights. I'll turn it over to Brian Gruters with MAG to provide an overview of the changes and updates and open it up to others who participated to add additional comments. Brian?
Hey, everybody, this is Brian with MAG. Let's see, so I don't think anybody is able to see this. I don't think we have a slide on it, but the changes were really quick and easy to describe. So you'll remember that the title of the document just says Shelter Bill of Rights at the top, and right below that it used to say every shelter participant has the right to. Now it says every shelter participant can expect to. So this was directly, that change came right out of commentary from folks in the local jurisdiction committee and here. So that was the lived experience collaborative's attempt to kind of speak directly to those concerns, and hopefully we're hoping that takes care of it. The collaborative, as you all know, is very proud of the work that they put into this, and we hope to see it go forward.
Brian, did you also want to describe the language that was included at the bottom?
Yes, thanks for that. So in addition to that, they added to the very bottom of the document, right below the section where it says that someone would have the right and ability to look at policies and procedures. It also says now participants may file a grievance with the shelter. So it calls out specifically the grievance policy or process, so that I guess the idea is that somebody wouldn't necessarily jump to my rights are in violation. I can just do a grievance and kind of go through the channels that way, and that was the idea.
I just have a question, Brian. Was there any additional changes around space and the wording around that specific section? I think that was a recommendation.
Yeah.
Somebody keep me honest here.
Yeah. Well, and I can describe a little bit of, so we were able to meet with a handful of cities who had feedback on it, and then it went through the ESG collaborative and the local jurisdictions for discussion too. And from our understanding, they're all in support of the language that was added. Some of the specifics were just leaning into the more detailed version versus the high level version, and the detailed version clarifies each item with some sort of way of measuring it that's more personal to the shelter, of like saying things like, you need to have a policy that indicates X, or you need to be in line with like state code around a certain item. So with those like tweaks, it seemed like all of those folks were in favor. And I will just say too, I was able to join the Lived Experience Collaborative. And it was really cool to see the group brainstorm and talk about this. And they were really excited of the collaboration that had happened from that side of things to get things across. And one of the representatives, which I feel like it'd be good to share here, was just like, one of the reasons why this is important is because this is like the worst time in our lives. And when we go into these spaces, it can feel like you don't have any rights, you don't have anything. And so the idea of calling it Shelter Bill of Rights and outlining things is just a reminder to somebody in plain language that it's like, no, like, you matter even in your worst of the worst. Like, people are here and are going to come alongside you, and you have your own rights in and of themselves. And so it was really cool to hear that firsthand, and figured I would share it with the board, as like, that's why this type of thing is important for us to have in place.
I just want to say thanks for clarifying that, TJ. I think that provided a lot more, or just a better understanding for me on the Bill of Rights than compared to the first time I read it. I think I probably didn't quite have that same understanding, but I appreciate that. And I did note the changes, and I recall just a lot of the questions or the concerns I think that we initially had. It seemed like a lot of them were addressed, and there was just a greater level of comfort.
I appreciate very much the change in the language, and it's not a lot, but I think it captures what some were saying in terms of, if I'm hearing you correctly, can expect versus has a right. And I think that we all want that, but I think that there's sometimes things that pop up that, I shared just the size and what we have to offer sometimes, but can expect to, I think, captures very, very nicely what the committee did to modify it. So thank you.
But I know Tish was there too. And so I don't know, Tish, if there was anything else that you would want to add from the Lived Experience Collaborative perspective and the group. But it seemed like this was a really good example of different people had different opinions, and we were able to at least compromise and come to a space where everybody was agreeable to moving it forward.
I think one of the points made by folks in the group, especially folks that understand the system really well from living through it and working in it, is that these are really guides to best practices for shelter providers. So the expectation is there, but it also gives providers the opportunity to sort of level up if they're not providing these exact guidelines, expectations, or they're not providing the space for their folks to really live independently in a safe environment. So this is something that I think should be sold as a best practice guide as well.
I'd just like to extend a thank you to all who worked on this over the past several months. Does the board have any additional comments?
Just a thank you to the Lived Experience Collaborative for their patience as we worked through a lot of this, especially I know it was a lot of the cities that had the requests for changes. And then thank you to TJ for kind of spearheading this through. I'm really happy with where we are with it. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Can I have a motion to approve the Shelter Bill of Rights?
I can motion.
Thank you, TJ. May I have a second?
I second.
Okay, Cricket. Thank you. Oh, Cricket, thank you very much. All right. Is there discussion of the motion from the board or comments from the public? All right. For those in the room, we will take a voice vote. Those in favor, please say yay. Yay. Those opposed, please say nay. All right. I will now ask Kelly to proceed with the roll call of those joining online.
Thank you. Tish Brown Gambino.
Yay.
Thank you. Lisa Glow.
Yay.
Thank you. Jessica Raymond.
Yay.
Thank you. Danielle Wright.
Yay.
Thank you, Madam Co-Chair. The motion passes.
Thank you. All right, move on to the next agenda item. In the fall, we approved a change in the definition of inclusion of outreach for the System Flow Dashboard and Homelessness Trends Report. In preparation for the Homelessness Trends Report next month, Dylan Belmont with MAG will provide an overview of the System Flow Dashboard and the impact of the policy change in October. Welcome, Dylan.
Thank you, Co-Chair Phillips. Tyler, could I share my screen? Okay, good stuff. This should look somewhat familiar to you. System Flow Dashboard, wonderful tool from HMIS that helps us visualize, just who's on the by name list and what we're looking at month over month. This presentation today is just going to be a brief update on how things have changed since that outreach policy was shifted from 30 days to 90 days, as you had described. So just a brief refresher on that in particular. Data Collaborative and Coordinated Entry Collaborative in the middle of last year made the suggestion to change the outreach policy for the by name list from 30 days. Individuals would need to, engage with outreach services every 30 days to remain on the by name list. They shifted that to 90 days. And back when the board approved it in August, it's recommended that we take a look at just how those changes look now that it's in place. So we'll head over first to the Active Overview tab. And sure enough, you do see, as sort of expected, a pretty substantial increase here from September to October. And from there, month over month, remaining relatively consistent. Now, like I said, this was sort of anticipated as a result of this change, not only the drastic increase because you have people staying on for longer, but also it being a little bit more consistent over time. One of the reasons that the change was recommended in the first place was sort of for that consistency. With 30 days, you might have folks who are on the by name list, drop off, and then, very shortly thereafter return to the BNL. So here you should see a little bit more of an accurate representation of how people are in the system month over month. Similarly, you also have this with the Flow Details tab, which is the tab that looks at just who's entering and exiting the homeless response system. So once again, you do have Sorry, let me move this guy. Quite that jump here from September to October, and then leveling back out once we're operating under that new policy. Also want to mention that for communication purposes, now we have this data considerations tab here added to the system flow dashboard, which is really helpful for, anytime you might see something that is just a little off, there might be an explanation for it. And sure enough, here, October 2023, there's a brief description of that policy change, as well as a link to a downloadable one-pager in case this information needs to be shared with someone else in a more consumable form. Moving forward, it'll also be pretty important to recognize that the homelessness trends report, which is coming out soon, pulls data from the same source. So this will also be impacted by that change. However, included with the homelessness trends report will be a very similar one-pager to that, just to make sure that data is contextualized. There will also be an added portion to that that sort of gives you a look at what the data would have been if it were operating under that same policy. So you're comparing apples to apples rather than just looking at, that giant shift as it is here. So that's about all I have. However, just in the interest of data literacy, there has been a ton of work lately in terms of making additional videos and courses available in the LMS on all of the dashboards, as well as the Data Collaborative recently wrapped up a training that is a huge deep dive on the by name list itself. So definitely recommend checking those out. But other than that, happy to take any questions or open up the floor to anyone else involved in this policy change.
Thank you, Dylan.
Hey, Dylan, thank you. And thanks for sharing on this. I guess I had two questions. So one is, I think there was sort of hypothesis that making this change might reduce the flow numbers because of people going in and out of the system. It looked like the outflow and inflow numbers kind of just reset to where they were before. And obviously it's only a couple of months into this, but it seems like maybe that hypothesis is not being played out in a way that we would have expected, that even with the 90 days, it's still about the same amount of churn from what we can see here. So maybe you could talk to that. And then the second one is just about one of the reasons why I believe it was 30 days to begin with is that when coordinated entry is trying to find folks, finding somebody who last engaged with the system like 89 days ago is really challenging compared to like a month. Have there been any reports from providers on impact in terms of finding folks for priority into housing based on this change?
Yeah, great questions, TJ. I would say for the first one, right, it can still be a little tricky because we are still early on with the change. It started in October. However, yeah, I mean, we would want to look at specifically like return from inactive, and it is remaining relatively consistent to how it was before the policy change. So it might just be a matter of continuing to keep tabs on it as we have additional data points to see if it does make a bigger impact moving forward. As with many other features of the system flow dashboard, a lot of movement is cyclical in nature. So we are seeing a snapshot from the winter, and how things are throughout the rest of the year might also affect that. So I would just say we'll continue to monitor it and see if there are any major outcomes from that. As for I don't know if I'd be able to speak to anything we've heard specifically from providers regarding outreach to individuals beyond that 30-day point. I don't know. Brian, have you heard anything?
Not specifically. So this is something I can bring to the CE collaborative when we could kind of dig into it. One of the things we're looking at really targeted more toward shelter spaces is discussing how do we get people onto the by name list more reliably. But I think outreach, similar concern, similar question. So I'll bring that back to that group.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Any additional follow-up, TJ, that you wanted? Okay. Any questions from the board? Any additional? All right. Thank you. We'll move on to our next item. All right. As part of Pathways Home and in alignment with community needs, the 3 COCs worked with the ICF to complete an evaluation of the data used in the community and of the HMIS vendor. Randy Haid from Solari will provide an overview on next steps from the evaluation. Welcome, Randy.
Thank you. Hello, everybody. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So as you know, this past year, the COC worked with ICF to complete a full evaluation of the data landscape throughout Arizona. In November and October, it was presented and the report came out in November. Full findings are available now. Next. And there were 6 recommendations that came out of the report. Implementation of a single HMIS, implement a shared governance, increase participation in state-level data systems, increase data from underrepresented populations, increase partnership with AZHack for data analytics, and finally, increase training through the learning management system. The bottom 4, the bolded ones, are all items that were approved in the strategic plan with collaboratives working to address these recommendations now. Go ahead. So then for today's discussion, we're going to focus on these first 2 recommendations and the next steps associated with them. We're going to begin with the second one. The idea here is that we implement a shared HMIS governance across the 3 COCs. The report recommendations were to review the governance models and the policies. And so the recommended action here for our COC is to investigate the state governance model and bring forward recommendations. And then for this next one, the single HMIS implementation, the recommendations out of the report were to investigate a shared implementation and issuing an RFP for a new vendor to be able to streamline this usage. Recommended action for our COC would be to investigate issuing an RFP and seek funding for that RFP issuance. This would be led by Solari staff. That's everything I have. Questions?
Any comments, thoughts, questions?
All right. Hey, Randy, thanks for sharing. So on the first one, I missed it. Who is responsible for exploring the shared governance? Was that
The
you
MAG
guys
team.
as well, or MAG?
The MAG team was going to look into that,
Okay.
and they've started a little bit.
Okay. And so for the purposes of this discussion, we're just talking information and chatting about it. And then the next steps would be MAG providing a recommendation around the shared governance, and then Solari sharing information around like all the logistics and costs associated, well, costs and like what it would look like to implement a new vendor.
That's my understanding. Is with feedback from the board, we would move forward with those items and come back to the board with it.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. So you're saying that it would be led by Solari staff, or would it be led by Solari staff with input from the staff here? and the board?
So what we discussed with the MAG team was that Solari would lead the building and issuance of the RFP for a new vendor, and we would absolutely be I imagine putting together a working group, accepting feedback from the community to do that. Solari would be responsible for making sure that moves forward. With the shared governance approach, the same thing would happen, but the MAG staff would be responsible for moving that forward. But in both cases with feedback from the community, absolutely.
Thank you.
Let me ask a question. And what's the status with the other two COCs? Are they in the same sort of like just basic recommendations at this point as well?
Yes, for the most part. So the balance of state is right in the same place we are this week. The Solari team will be giving the same presentation to their board. And that's been aligned pretty well so far. With the Pima COC, they are involved right now in some HUD TA that takes up a lot of their time. And so the loose feedback that we've gotten is that there's interest, but at this point, there's not capacity to engage deeply with it. And that's where that's at.
So then that sort of goes to, I guess, and Kelly, I'm not sure if MAG team knows from the governance side, but just in terms of timeframes, like what are we talking about here? If we know Pima may slow play, are we going to be able to move forward on things with the balance of the state in Maricopa? Or is that just like, if we were to say, yep, board's in support of y'all going forward, would this be like next month? Would this be like next year? Where the recommendations would come forward? What does that kind of look like?
So that's a great question. I would expect us to be coming back with a loose plan within the next month or two with those next steps of just sort of scoping out what an RFP process could look like, scoping out how we collect feedback and input from the community. I would expect us to have the next steps ready in the next month or two. More broadly, an RFP issuance, would involve several months.
No, I'm more just curious of like when, if we were to say go forth, like when that would, so you're saying like a couple of months?
Yeah, we're hoping to move forward as quickly as the community is willing to engage and support it.
And then from the governance side for MAG, how quickly would we, same time frame or?
Madam Co-Chairs and members of the committee, I think that we wouldn't have any issue keeping up with the same timeline. What we're really asking for here is permission to move forward with researching other options. That is the only decision we're really asking for you to make at this time. And we can provide additional history about that if you would like, but I think the history is well known, unless anybody has any specific questions.
Not from this end. All right.
But just for clarification, this item isn't for, we're not taking a vote on this item today. We're just discussing. Okay.
I think we're collectively looking for consensus to move forward, correct? Okay. Is there consensus to move forward? All right, thank you. All right. Thank you for all your work on this, and we look forward to what's to come with the recommendations of. Thank you. Right. Next item, request for future agenda items, topics or issues of interest that the Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care Board would like to have considered for discussion at a future meeting will be requested. Any additional items or discussions for future agenda items?
I just have one. So I know, and I'm new to the board, so I don't know if this type of thing has happened before, but we've heard discussion around the HMIS evaluation and recommendations, and there were some evaluation metrics around the coordinated entry. I'm wondering if, as like the three core components of the continuum of care being the collaborative applicant, HMIS, and coordinated entry, that we can kind of get a better understanding of all of those things on a regular basis, including like the work from our collaborative applicant with MAG. And so one of the things, right, like for our applications that we go through, we look at all of the services. And so I think I'd just be curious, and I believe if I recall in the past, MAG has shared like stuff. I don't know if that's annually. And so I was just kind of wondering if I could get some guidance from the group who have more experience with this than me, what that kind of looks like on a regular basis. Because I know coordinated entry is required every like year or 2 years or something. And we just did HMIS, which I don't know if there's requirements, but I'm not sure if y'all know or we could get back to that. But are there any things that currently exist related to the collaborative applicant evaluation? And then if not, maybe we can discuss what just regular cadence of all of the core aspects of the continuum would be, including the board, right? I think it'd be important for us to understand like if we're being successful too. So I don't know if that was too long and complex of a question, but if you could all help me out with that, that would be awesome.
Madam Co-Chairs and members of the committee. Teacher, what I'm understanding you're asking is, can we provide you with a list of how frequently we evaluate core elements of our COC, including the evaluation of the collaborative applicant as a whole and the board?
Yes.
We would be more than happy to put together a timeline for when that currently occurs, including aspects of it that may not be regularly occurring, to bring back to the board for determination on how often you would like to have that happen.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Kelly.
Welcome.
Thank you. Any additional items, future agenda items? All right. Okay. An opportunity will be provided for Maricopa Regional Continuum of Care Board members to present a brief summary of current events, challenges, and opportunities related to homelessness. Would anyone like to share any updates, roundtable discussion items?
Madam Co-Chairs, we do have several updates from the COC if you're interested. I don't mean to jump ahead of the membership. Not hearing anybody. Okay, I would like to welcome Brian. He received a promotion since the last board meeting. Brian, would you like to share a little bit about yourself again with everybody and your new position?
Hey, everybody. Very happy to be here. No, I feel like I'm kind of fill big shoes with Miss Katie, because she's the best. But I am really grateful to be stepping into a strong team. I'm not new to this work, so I feel very strongly that we will do a good job this year and going forward. But obviously, this is a new COC for me, so I have a lot to learn. Anyway, I'll be calling everybody. That's all. Thank you.
Welcome.
Along those same lines, we do have a planner position available on our team. Thank you, Rachel, and the city of Phoenix for that. And also, I want to tentatively share with all of you that HUD has posted what the NOFO awards look like. We don't have official notification yet from HUD to MAG for our application. So I'm not going to share with what's on the website with you quite yet. However, if it is accurate, it looks great for us. So I'll leave it at that. As soon as we have official word from HUD, we will make sure to send out notification to the board and to other stakeholders on what that award looks like for the next year.
Can I do that real quick? HUD sent out in their newsletter all of those numbers, so you can take a look at them. What we also called the home office to confirm, and they were like, we don't know anything about that. And I think part of the reason is we don't have a budget yet, so it could just have to do with them waiting for official budget to go forward. But I'd encourage you to take a look if you're curious.
We're not trying to be vague, but maybe just a little superstitious, just in case. You don't want to put the cart too far before the horse and celebrate until we have official word.
But certainly sounds like you're optimistic, so we'll go with that.
Yeah,
The rest aren't.
lean in.
Vicky, I have a question. Rachel, it's more, I know how hard the city, you and your team worked the last several months with the challenges downtown. Could you just give, in a sense, almost an update on for lack of a better word, the aftermath, where it's today and what kind of, what kind of place are we in today moving forward?
Sure. Yeah. So the area around the Key campus downtown, we've talked a little about it, 15 blocks that we closed to camping over from May to November. So right now we're sort of in maintenance mode, I would say, of maintaining that area closed to camping. Certainly there's still this influx of people experiencing homelessness. So we're still seeing people down in that area. I think Tish can probably and Lisa can probably speak to it best, that all of the beds on campus are taken. So when people are down in that area, there's really not a lot of options for them. We are opening our safe outdoor space. It's only been open to around 45 or so people up until now, but actually this week is actually, we're not going to, open the floodgates or anything that would overwhelm staff, but we are going to start increasing those, the number of individuals there, because our construction is really finally coming to a close. So that's one option, maybe not that necessarily the best option, but it is, we have been able to maintain the area, but we are still, actively finding individuals in need of services in that area all the time. But I also think we're finding that citywide as well, not just in the area around the campus. I will say too, we did a report to council in December on like, where are they now for the people who did accept indoor shelter, the roughly 600 individuals, and 68% of them were either permanently housed, still in shelter, or in another transitional type setting. And I don't have my numbers in front of me. 17% were unknown, so they were not in shelter or in any place touching the system, so completely unknown. And then 15% had returned to homelessness. So those were, don't necessarily quote me on those numbers, but those are approximately those the numbers.
Situation. Is there any update at all in the sense with the projected budget shortfall on how that might impact the services that are being provided?
From the city perspective,
Yeah.
projected budget shortfall. So right now we utilized just about all of the city's leftover ARPA funding to get a lot of temporary things set up last year. Thank you very much for your help. And moving forward, we've got several projects in various stages of construction that will be coming on board as some of these temporary things come off board. So they're fully funded as far as construction. And then we as a city, together with our other partners, I know county and state have other funding, but we're looking to maintain operations of those other permanent locations as we move forward in the like post-pandemic funding time. So not fully figured out at this point, I'll say, but definitely something that I think every municipality and government agency is sort of working on, knowing that we've been in high times the last few years with Go Bucks.
Any additional updates?
I'd just like to add, this is Letitia, I'd just like to add briefly to what Rachel was reporting out on, that last week we did see 140 individuals, but those individuals were walking around the campus area, and we're providing supports to those individuals through the outreach team to get them on campus. So it looks very different down here. I just have to echo what Rachel reported. I want everybody to know that. We're getting folks attached to services and supports. And also to add, our next Project Connect is February 22nd in Surprise. So if any of you would like to volunteer, please go to our Key Campus website and volunteer with us. Keys to Change, Key Campus. I have to get used to saying that myself, Rachel.
Thank you, Tish.
Madam Co-Chair's one of the, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Rachel.
Oh, I was also gonna say an announcement from the City of Phoenix side, a little bit related to your announcement, Kelly and Brian. The city started our community court officially last week. So we're proud to have Katie Gentry as the program manager over there. But also it's a huge step forward for the City of Phoenix. And we're just so excited to have not only Katie, but to have this community court and CBI as our partner in navigation. We had a big press event last week and it went over really well. So thank you. Sorry.
Can I ask a question on that? Is that a pre-adjudication or post-adjudication?
Pre-adjudication.
100%. Does Phoenix still do an MRO program?
We do, yes, yes.
I'd love to talk to you more about how those two interface.
Okay, we're trying to figure it out too, but yes, let's definitely talk.
One other thing, Madam Co-Chairs and members of the committee, and maybe someone in the room or someone online has more information. I did hear just a quick snippet yesterday on KJZZ about an advocate from a small nonprofit who is working to allow individuals who are experiencing homelessness to get a free driver's license. I don't know if anybody's heard about this. It wasn't the Homeless ID Project. It was a different nonprofit that I wasn't familiar with, but they gave that person quite a bit of airtime. Has anybody heard about this moving forward otherwise?
I could probably do some checking and follow up.
Okay. I think that would be great for us to know.
Yeah.
And how to direct people in that toward those services if they do become available.
Kelly, I will forward that information to you. The name is escaping me right now, but I also heard of that organization.
Would you be willing to share that with everyone, please? Oh,
I sure will.
thank you. Kelly will get it out. Thank you.
Yes.
I just wanted to mention one other thing with the point in time count this last week, and with it being rainy and kind of a really tricky circumstance, it just reminded me, and it was kind of a microcosm of what we experience all the time, that we had a lot of volunteers out, and everybody was positive and on it. And I didn't want to just say it from our side, but I'm sure you all experienced this too, that how it feels like that's how it is with the rest of the time, rain or shine, like our folks are out pushing hard every day, trying to do better. And it just, I don't know, it was one of those moments where I was able to sit back and reflect for a little bit, like across the board, whether it was MAG spending a lot of energy and time and prepping and creating trainings that were really great. And yeah, your edits were on point with Brian popping in out of nowhere. But also just down to the coordinators, to the providers, and that like it felt reflective, even though it was one moment just of the rest of the work of people hitting it hard regardless of what's going on and doing it with a positive attitude when there is every reason to not necessarily be positive. So just wanted to call that out, not only for us, but for the whole group, as a reminder of when we're in this space and it feels tough, that we keep on moving regardless. And it's really cool and empowering to see when everybody else is running in the same direction. So thanks, everybody.
Well said.
Thank you, TJ.
All right. There are no additional updates.